Welcome to the Creative Coach podcast. My name is Wade Kingsley. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Creative Coach. Each week, something little, something takeaway, something bite-sized to help you unlock your creative potential. Now, I am wearing a very thick coat, not because I'm terribly cold, but it is getting colder in Australia. And if you're down this part of the world, you'll know that winter is upon us. However, that's not going to stop our sense of adventure. And coming up in July, we are doing the Creative Camp. In fact, we're doing two of them. One in Melbourne, just outside Melbourne in a lovely seaside place, which I happen to live in, called Sorrento. And the second location is on the northern beaches of Sydney, somewhere called Narrabeen, which again is on the ocean. And we're putting together a creative camp because I love the idea of bringing people together to share their stories, share their experience, and help them unlock their creative potential. And on today's podcast, I'm talking to our very first guest speaker. Please say hello, Ollie Bridge. Hi, Ollie.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm very well, although I am rugging up. You look like you're somewhere in the Bahamas there. You're not in the Bahamas, though, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm in Melbourne, but I do a lot of calls, and a lot of Sydney siders like to say that it's always raining in Melbourne. So I like to try and make the place look
Yeah,
like
I
it's
think we're all
always
kind of
sunny
getting a
in
little bit
Melbourne.
of dose of the winter chills this week. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about your experience. So just to introduce yourselves to everyone, tell us who you are and your special view on the world.
Oh, thanks, Wade. Yeah, so as you said, I'm Ollie Bridge. I started my career working with elite athletes to try and help them turn up on game day or race day and perform at their peak. I worked in F1, hence the memorabilia behind me. And really, what I've done over my career is take those learnings with elite athletes and then apply them to the corporate athletes, the everyday managers and executives that I work with now every day to help them turn up for their game day. And we tend to, unfortunately, in the corporate world, sort of rip up the rule book when it comes to what we know from the science works to make humans be their best selves. You know, we don't sleep and we work long hours and we just drudge through. And I think when I think about being creative, there is not a hope in hell that we're going to be able to be creative and get the most out of our minds and our brains if we don't move our bodies and if we don't provide our bodies with adequate sleep, the right nutrition and recovery. And so there's got to be this realization that how we get athletes to turn up and really be at their best, the rule book's the same when we talk about getting into the boardroom or that really important pitch that we need to do, or get the room in the right environment so that we can create these wonderful new ideas and campaigns. And a lot of that comes from all of the research that we've done over the last 30, 40 years, and we're just ignoring. So I'm super excited about Creative Camp to try and help people in these inter moments multiple times throughout our day where we can choose to open up our world and not close down our world in some of the practices that unfortunately our environment isn't giving us the right signals. We tend to eat the wrong food or go to bed too late, or because our environment's giving us those nudges. But we can fight against that. And I'm excited to share some of the tips and tricks that I've seen work in the past to help people really prime themselves the right way.
That's great, Ollie. Thank you. And I think, peak performance is a phrase we often equate to physical performance. We're used to hearing it in sport. So interesting, your background in sport. And I think one of the things I'm really looking forward to helping people understand with this year's theme about creating yourself is that you do have to set the right conditions to be creative. And part of that is your physical health, part of it's your mental health and your well-being. And so I'm looking forward to people coming along thinking, oh, I thought it was a creative camp. I thought we were going to do puzzles and painting and learn the guitar. Here we are actually learning more about ourselves. And you and the other guest speakers have all got a very different view on that, but you're all coming at it from the same place. And if you're thinking about coming to Creative Camp, I can tell you, I saw Ollie speak at a conference I was facilitating, and straight away we connected. I thought he is a guy who has so much to offer the world. So I'm really thrilled, Ollie, that you've decided to come on board for Creative Camp. Before we go, just a little teaser. Talk us through a connection that you think is really easy to understand that people don't do between their physical health and their mental health. What's something that elite athletes know and do, but us, as you said, the corporate athletes, the people who sit outside elite sport, what's something that we don't do enough of and we should think about?
The main thing for me is arousal control. If you think about an athlete before an event, often there's years and years and years of preparation that comes up to that event. And so a huge amount of angst and sometimes anxiety is built up there. And so as a coach, one of the things I needed to do was bring my athlete down. If they woke up at 5 a.m. and they weren't racing until 5 p.m., I didn't want them using up all of that energy with all of this hyper feeling. I needed to bring them down. And the same thing is true when we're thinking about coming up with new ideas. We can't have our arousal level through the roof, because that's when we start to get into fight or flight and start to turn on the wrong systems. And we're talking about the autonomic nervous system here. And one of the simplest ways is just some breath work. A lot of people will have heard of box breathing. And one of the simplest ways to tell our body and our brains we are safe, saber-toothed tiger is not coming to get us, is just by regulating the acidity of our blood. And the way we do that is through breath work. So if we control the amount of carbon dioxide we're getting out of our bodies by controlling our breath, we can control our bodies.
That's great, Ollie. Thank you. And if that whet your appetite for things that you can do to help create yourself, to set those conditions for creativity, then you're going to love hearing Ollie at the Creative Camp, along with many other guest speakers who I'll interview on the podcast over the coming weeks. So the details, you can head to thecreativecoach.com and you'll see the details there for the Creative Camp. If you'd like to get pricing, you can email me direct, wade@thecreativecoach.com. If you want to get your boss to pay for it and you're not sure how to convince them to do it, then drop me a note and I can give you all the good talking points, the things that you can say. It's 2 days. It's 16th and the 17th of July, just outside of Melbourne in a lovely seaside place called Sorrento. It's cold, but you'll love it. Lean into the cold this time of year. And then in Narrabeen, just outside of Sydney on the northern beaches there, it's the 30th and 31st of July. Hope to see you at the Creative Camp in your Australia. If not, I'll see you on the podcast next week. And remember, you are creative.